So what is hypnosis, hypnotherapy, NLP, and EFT? How does it work? Altered states. Wasn't that a movie? What are altered states? How effective is it? What does a brain in altered states look like? You will not cluck like a chicken, I promise you. What is hypnosis? Hypnosis is focused relaxation. It's a natural altered state of consciousness. An altered state of consciousness is any state that is not a normal walking around state. For example, meditation is an altered state of consciousness. Prayer is an altered state of consciousness. Studying, when you're really deeply into that zone, like, when you're cramming for midterms or finals or something, that's an altered state of consciousness. Everyone passes through an altered state of consciousness at least twice a day. When you wake up in the morning and then when you go to bed at night, when you go to sleep at night. It's the state that we're talking about is that half awake, half asleep state where you're aware of everything around you, but you're too lazy to open your eyes kind of thing. Another example of an altered state of consciousness is when you're driving a route that you've driven many, many times before, and you kind of your mind goes into automatic, and you're thinking about other things, and you're just zooming down the highway, and you go right past your exit. That's another example of an altered state of consciousness. We're usually hyper aware in this altered state, meaning we're very aware of our body and how it feels and whether it's cold in the room. We're much more sensitive in this state. And we are in control at all times during this altered state of consciousness. How does hypnosis work? To understand how hypnosis works, we need to understand how our mind works. We have three very separate and very distinct minds. They do different things and they have a hard time interrelating and communicating with each other. Those three minds are the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and the unconscious or superconscious mind. This is a little mind model to help us understand those various states of mind. This outer ring, the blue outer ring, is the conscious mind. That's only about the top 10% of our mind. The purple is our subconscious mind. Time doesn't exist here. This is where we go in deep meditative states. The very center of here is the superconscious mind or the unconscious mind. This is where you access the divine self and the higher self. And all of these have different brain waves associated with them. Gamma brain waves are the kind of brain waves you get when you're very alert and you're kind of cramming knowledge and studying. This is also the brainwave pattern that we see in channelers whenever they're channeling. Beta brainwaves is our normal walking around state. That's our normal conscious brainwave pattern. Alpha brainwaves are a relaxed, light meditative state. Theta is a deeper meditative state, down into very deep theta, bordering on delta. Delta brainwave patterns are where we access the superconscious. That's also where we go into a deep restorative sleep. Now, the other piece over here, the critical factor, we'll get to him later. But it protects the subconscious mind because once something gets in here, the subconscious makes it happen. So the mind is very protected by the time we're about 10 to 12 years old. And we have what's basically a gatekeeper. And the term for it is a critical factor. Before anything can get into the subconscious, it has to pass through this gatekeeper to get in there. Because once something gets in here, it is our reality. So let's look at a little more deeply at the conscious mind first. It's the outer surface layer, like I said. It's the top 10% of our mind. It's the most familiar part, and it's our normal walking around state. It's our Spock mind, and it's responsible for 5 things. It analyzes, it decides, it makes decisions, it rationalizes. It's also where our willpower is seated. It's in our conscious mind, and it's where our working memory is. The brainwave pattern is beta. Our subconscious mind, together the subconscious mind and the superconscious or the unconscious mind is the other 90%. It's where the real you and me and everyone else lives. It is awesomely powerful. It can make you into anything you would like to be. It can make you rich and famous. It can make you thin. It can make you happy, or it can make you sad. It is very literal. And it works like a computer. It does whatever its programming tells it to do, and that's whatever gets inside of it until that critical factor is formed. Whatever gets inside your subconscious is the programming. It's where our programs are, the ones that we replay again and again and again. Our subconscious is mostly blank when we're born, but every day we add programming to it. Its prime directive, its primary purpose, is to make us into the person that reflects all of the programming in the subconscious. It must do this. And usually that's very adaptive. In some cases, it can be quite harmful. The subconscious has a second prime directive as well, and that is to protect us against danger, real or imagined. And its protective mechanisms can manifest as fears and phobias and even excess weight. The subconscious mind, for example, and this is an example of how a protective mechanism can manifest as weight issues. If, for example, if a woman was abused by a family member at a very young age, the conscious mind would block the memory, but the subconscious would still have it locked away. Later in high school, this same woman is more sexually active than other girls and feels that the boys only try and hurt her. Finally, when she marries in her 20s, a guy she thought was the greatest guy ever, and on their honeymoon, he feels the need to confess to her that he used to just use women for sex and then throw them away. Instantly after that confession, the subconscious mind starts tying all of these various experiences together, and it decides that men hurt women, and therefore I must protect you against men. Now, since her subconscious can't teach her karate and it can't buy her a gun, it protects her in the only way that it can, and she starts gaining weight. Soon, she becomes very heavy, so men will no longer be interested in her and therefore protected. Sometimes that's how the subconscious protects us in a way that we would prefer that it didn't. It's a very creative way to accomplish its second primary job, which is protection. It protects us. The subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between reality and imagination. It's all the same to the subconscious. The subconscious also contains all the working memory. Everything is recorded, every thought, every feeling, every experience. Only the conscious mind forgets, not the subconscious. Also, time does not exist here for the subconscious. For the subconscious, everything is now. All time is now. The subconscious is also the seat of our habits, good habits, bad habits, and those that are neither good nor bad, like how to drive a car. It's the seat of our emotions, and it's the seat of our values. And whenever we're in a meditative state or a hypnotic state, a trance state, all of these things come to the surface, so they are more profound than they are in our normal walking around state. And this is why you will not cluck like a chicken or go rob the bank for me. Because the seat of your values, if anything, your values will be more pronounced while you're in this state. And you're not gonna go rob the bank for me. Or cluck like a chicken. The subconscious mind is emotional, very emotional. It's also highly intelligent. It's very, very lazy. It's often irrational, like that example that we gave you. And it's very childlike. It has the mentality of like a 10 or a 12-year-old. Sometimes when you do something and then immediately wonder, why did I say that or why did I do that? The subconscious part of you is the part that laughs and says, yeah, but it was so much fun. Let's do it again. And it's lazy. It's so lazy. It will ping out suggestions that are neutral or positive because staying negative is so much easier for it to do than to accept positive suggestions. This is why it's very important to fully embrace the suggestions given when we're doing a hypnosis session. For example, a large person gets out of the shower and while standing in front of a mirror toweling off, they're saying to themselves, boy, am I big. Now, that idea or thought goes right into the subconscious mind, and the subconscious says, yes, that matches the programming I have in here, and that matches my perception of you. So it accepts the suggestion that reinforces the self-perception of that person being big, and they become heavier and heavier. Now, if you take that same large person and stand them in front of the mirror and have them say, I'm thin, I'm trim, and I'm attractive, that statement goes into the subconscious mind, and the subconscious mind says, no, I don't think so. That doesn't match the programming I've got in here, so it's not allowed in. Later, we'll see there is a way to get that affirmation into the subconscious and past the critical factor. The subconscious mind likes to be told what to do. It's that very childlike part of you. Your subconscious can also access the divine self, the higher self, the divine spark. And it can access the all that is, the creator, the source, the one infinite creator, whatever your name for it is. The brainwave patterns in the subconscious mind range from alpha, that very light trance state, to light theta and deep theta for deeper trances. The superconscious mind controls autonomic responses like breathing, your heartbeat, the reflexes, blinking of your eyes. It's also the seat of the divine self, the higher self, and the divine spark. This is where it lives in you, that divine spark that's inside each and every living being. And it's the connection to the all that is, the creator, the source, the one infinite. And this is the delta brainwave pattern. That's that deep sleep, deep restorative sleep. And just to remind us again, here's that model again that we've been talking about. So the conscious mind's this outer layer here. The subconscious is in here. And we did spend a lot of time talking about it because it's 90% of our mind. The superconscious is at the center, and it's even deeper. And again, gamma brain waves are out here. That's like hyperalert and studying, and that's also the channeling brain waves. Beta is your normal walking around stage, beta brainwave patterns. Alpha is a very light trance state, a very light meditative state. It goes from light alpha to deeper alpha, and then light theta to deeper theta. Deeper theta will take you all the way down here to the edge of the superconscious, and then in the superconscious, which is where the divine spark is, and your divine self, your higher self, and the unconscious, all the autonomic nervous system functions are controlled in here. And then here's the critical factor, the gatekeeper, that protective part that controls what's allowed into the subconscious and what isn't, because once it makes it in here, it is our reality. It is our view of the world. The critical factor, the gatekeeper. So how do we get into the subconscious and past the gatekeeper? Remember, once an idea, a thought, or a concept gets into the subconscious, it must happen. You're changing the programming, and that inner mind must respond to new programming. But it's not that easy to get new programming in there. The critical factor protects the subconscious mind, because once something is in our subconscious, it is our truth. It is our view of the world. And the critical factor forms during the time we're about 10 to 12 years old. By the time we're that old, we have had enough input, seen enough of the world to start forming our own worldview. But before that age, before age 10 to 12, everything that happens goes straight into our subconscious. Nothing is pinged out. There are several ways to get past the critical factor, the gatekeeper, and into the subconscious. One way is boredom. Another way to get in there is repetition, affirmations, mantras. Anything that's very repetitive will get into your subconscious. Trauma will take you straight into the subconscious if you've had some sort of traumatic incident that's happened to you. Whatever has happened has gone straight into your subconscious and is still there. Emotional reactions, both good and bad. And something people don't usually think about with this, with emotional reactions, a lot of the movies you watch, when they elicit emotional reactions, you can get a lot of associations from the movies that seep into the subconscious this way. Relaxation is another way to get in there. And remember, that's what hypnosis is. It's focused relaxation. And of course, we can use hypnosis or an altered state or a trance state to get past the critical factor, the gatekeeper, and into the subconscious. And just so you have a better idea, so you know it's not just me saying this, I'm going to show you what some of the brainwave patterns look like for EEGs, and what PET scans of people's brains look like when they're in these different altered states. And this is just a little overview I put together some time ago, where you can see how the brainwave patterns relate to each other and where they are as far as hertz. Gamma state's really high. It's a trance state. It's the hyper-aware state. Beta is our normal walking around state. It's the next one down. Alpha is a very light trance state, a light meditative state. That's inner pondering, typical light meditative state. Theta is a deeper meditative state, a deeper relaxed state. This is where you get creative inspiration, out-of-body experiences, problem solving and visualization take place here. REM sleep, and this is just for reference here, I couldn't quite get it down there on the line, but REM sleep, which is your dreaming state when you're sleeping, is right on the verge between deep alpha and light theta. And that's usually after you've been in delta, which is your deepest and most physically restorative sleep state down here. And usually the way it happens when we fall asleep, we start up here and we pass through alpha and theta on our way down to delta, which is the deep sleep. And then whenever we start dreaming, we come back up right to here. And then we'll dream. The dream cycles, I think, are usually about 90 minutes long. And then we'll drop back down into delta again. Here's a PET scan of the different brainwave patterns for all of these different altered states. Now, here's delta. That's that deep sleep that we were talking about. That's associated with the superconscious. Here's theta. That's the deep meditative state. And here's alpha. That's the light meditative state. Now for beta, they've got a few different versions. Here's one version of beta. That's the normal walking around state. Here's another one. Normal walking around state, theta. Here's a third. And here's another, beta, normal walking around state. And then over here is gamma. That's that hyper-aware state that you see a lot when people are cramming and studying. This is also the state that's associated with channeling, when people are channeling. And that's what the brainwave looks there, what the brain actually looks like from a PET scan. These are PET scan images. Now here are some EEG images so you can see how different these brainwave patterns really are. This is the gamma, that's the hyper-aware peak performance. You're studying and people are channeling. Here's the beta, this is the normal walking around state. Here's alpha, this is the relaxed, light meditative state. Here's theta, this is the deep meditative state. And then down here is the delta, the deep sleep. Just to give you a little more comparison, again, we've got the beta, the normal walking around. Here's alpha, that's the light meditative, light relaxation. Here's the theta, light sleep. Going into delta. There's delta, that's deep sleep. And then here's the, and I think this is why I put this in here, this actually shows REM, the dreaming state that we talked about earlier. So what about NLP and EFT? NLP is neuro-linguistic programming, and it is closely related to hypnosis. It's usually done in a conscious state. However, when NLP techniques are combined with hypnosis and hypnotherapy, the way that I do it, it's highly effective. EFT is the emotional freedom technique. It's often referred to as tapping because the way the technique works is you end up tapping the energy meridians on your head and neck while you're basically doing a stream of consciousness around whatever the issue is. And that tapping works with the energy meridians. It's the same energy meridians that are used in acupuncture, and it helps release the emotional charge around whatever the issue is. EFT is quite an effective way to deal with issues that might arise between hypnosis and hypnotherapy sessions. Meridians are like I said, they're the pathways used for acupuncture, and you use the fingers. This is why they call it tapping. Use your fingers to tap the meridians on the head, face, and neck with stream of consciousness. I will put together a separate video that teaches EFT, and I have a chart, and there are videos out on YouTube, and I think there are charts out there on the net too. EFT has gotten quite popular in the last few years because it's easy to do. You can do it anywhere, and it works. It really does work. I've used it on occasion to remove the good taste of chocolate, actually to remove the taste from chocolate altogether. And it's kind of strange when you do that, and then chocolate doesn't taste like anything. Gets rid of those chocolate cravings pretty quickly. So some closing thoughts here. The mental attitude determines how you respond to the suggestions, whether you're neutral, whether you're hopeful, whether you reject it flat out, or whether you accept it. And acceptance is the best attitude, and it really is the only one that works when you're going into hypnosis and hypnotherapy. All of these other attitudes, neutral, hopeful, and rejection, don't get you what you want. To get what you want and what the change that you want to happen, you've got to accept it. You've got to accept the suggestions and embrace them and make them your own. Embrace the suggestions and make them your own for the best results. Use EFT in between weekly sessions to help with any issues that arise, for example, chocolate cravings. And have fun. Enjoy the sessions. Not only will we be reprogramming your relationship with food, you'll be more relaxed, centered, balanced, and present with yourself and your body, and more connected. What we're going to do is we're going to connect yourself to your divine self, your higher self. We're going to hook up that connection, and then we're going to work on deepening it, because that connection connects you not only to source, but it connects you to each and every cell in your body, because each and every cell in your body also has that divine flame, that connection to source. It's all about perspective. And your body knows what it needs better than any diet book, better than any fad diet, better than any video that you're going to run into, because everybody's body is different. We're the same, but we're each very individual and very different. And depending on what kind of stress you're under, what kind of environment you're in, each body has different needs. So that's why we're going to strengthen that connection with the body. Anyway, thank you for watching the video, and we'll be talking with you soon.